This photo here that you see before, 1 minute. This photo that you see right here was shot on a G Master 135mm focal length, a $2,000 lens. If you don't have a good base with photo and video to start with, there ain't no expensive gear that's gonna come save the day for you. You have to sell, FOMO, fear of missing out. Camera and gear, FOMO, missing out. Either way, the FOMO thing can be really, really bad on you mentally and health-wise. So what you can do is just get right back to basics. Quietly, it's been 5 years since constantly doing YouTube videos. What I learned talking to people getting into YouTube or video photo making, anything, is that there is a lot of people who want to do it for the social media aspect of it. A lot of how do I get the views, how do I make a buck? Nothing at all wrong with that. I'm a business guy, so I totally understand that. But the simple truth with me is just, Rennie, you throwing up? I was really into this filmmaking stuff from a stupid age. Like, one of the first things I remember telling my teacher in school was I wanted to be a CG artist because Jurassic Park came out, and I don't want to work in special visual effects. Props to y'all. That one's not my lane. It's video day. Bobby don't seem very enthused. He approves of my career choices, I promise. So having said all that, I decided maybe we should sit down, look at my first vlog from 2017, since PG is in that one as well. Let's just go through a few things that I've learned. I'm not trying to tell you how to grow follower accounts. I can tell you a thing or two about maybe cutting a video together. Woo! All right, slide into my editing t-shirt now. We're not used to hearing ourselves speak all the time, so I recommend pulling out the trusty phone, using the voice recording app just to get familiar with it. Just get used to hearing the voice. Another question I get asked all the time, scripting. So for vlogs, they're a little bit more reactionary. Talking head videos, sure, I can go word by word if that's what the video calls for. I can do a mixture of both, improv and word by word. Content kind of dictates that. This video was uploaded 5 years ago. November 30th, 2017, vlog number 1. I still have that graphic. It's been modified a little bit, but it's still there. So this entire thing is out of focus. Tip number 2. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to seeing the back of your screen to know that something's in focus and out of focus, and after a little while, you will be able to gauge just by glancing at it. But I remember at first, especially with video, still shots too, it was really, really hard to tell when something would be in focus just by glancing at the screen. So the more you see it, the more you get used to it, and you can do it. And you just can't always rely on autofocus, so it's good to be able to manually focus. Whew.
So it's nothing like a little bit of...
Ooh, that is a brutal cutout and transition.
Coming to you live from
I still kind of do the same video where I just well, sit down here, run my mouth, chat, talk with you. Still kind of a thing. Lighting, very important in videos.
Day before heading to ATL, just shoot a shot.
I'm almost silhouette.
I call it shoot with the wonderful Patty tomorrow. Bags are packed. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit on the excited side to head into Atlanta, Georgia.
So I was trying to show like getting gear and things together and bags, but it's just so poorly lit. How can you really see that? So another tip, definitely light things. We need to be able to see you. Oh, super close up, poorly lit again. That was my transition into a different shirt. So another thing I see in vlogs is this right here, just shots of the road. So, but we get it, this is where we're going. You're thinking in your head like, okay, we gotta show us on the way to the place. But nope, that could have been fast, quick cut, and we're there on Krog Street, which I think I mispronounced it and I like leaked it out because I was saying Krog wrong. But we get there, so you don't have to point the camera out the window going down the road. So tip number 3, don't stay in shots, don't stay in scenes and moments longer than you have to. And the inverse is true, you can stay in shots a little bit too short a time, so you don't really get a feel for what the world is going on, what you just saw on the screen. So that is just very, very simple, basic pacing things that you will be able to feel out through experience. If you don't have The lights, the gear, the experience, pacing, you definitely can get that by cutting and editing. That's one of the first things I learned that I was gonna be able to be fully in control of is pacing. And as you can see, I didn't implement it until a few videos, years later. Doing a video right now. So we're at the street tunnel, world freaking famous, where all the stereotypical someone walking or holding onto the wall shot. I would still do that because I did a shot with PG up against a fence here recently, and it's like just as high school as can be, but there's a way to do it with some flair to it. That was not it. I would have did maybe a close in, more slow-mo. I think that camera that I was using only had 720p. It's 60p for slow motion. So phones can definitely outdo the Canon T4i from a few years ago. Also, when talking, remember to duck your audio. It can be automatically done in Premiere now. It can also take some fine tuning for you to adjust still, but just lowering that audio, that music just a little bit so it doesn't compete with your attention when talking goes a long way. A 5-year ago PG. We got a few shots there. Okay, this is about the end of this. Being aware of white balance and basic photo video knowledge. This is very yellow, yikes. But these are all things you work through. The more you do these videos, the more you'll notice something like your brain, you just don't see it because you're not used to thinking in these terms. But trust me, you will get the feel of this. Make eye contact with the camera. Too many times I'll see when you have a flip or if you're on a phone, your eye is just going over here. Your audience is right there in the lens. So make the eye contact with them. The whole FOMO on gear, not having latest greatest, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, my most popular videos were on a Canon SL2. My most popular photo was taken with a DJI Spark drone camera. It's in the hands of the creator how things can turn out. Now, don't get me wrong, in the fancy schmancy, high dynamic range, autofocus definitely comes in handy, but keep in mind, you gotta have that base. Going back to that very first photo I showed you in this video, you have to have the base to work with. Also, I hadn't seen PG in 5 years. Bonus thing before you take off, don't do too much of that, because you will never do that in people's face generally. We don't need zoom in, zoom out, where it makes a loud noise on your zoom lens when you're rotating it. You didn't have to do that. You can keep walking into the frame though. That's all vlog etiquette. Get that shot going in and just be like, I didn't know a camera was here. You can definitely do that. Check out the portrait video that we just put out. And if you like this video, swing by YeagerShots.com. Pick up some channel themed apparel, photo and video themed apparel, and subscribe to never miss a shot from YeagerShots.com.